we see the government shutdown is even impacting individuals who are trying to fly for business and for leisure. We want to talk about this today, but before you do anything, do me a quick favor and hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you join in this conversation in the comments section. Leave a like or a hype. Make sure you share this video and turn on your notification bell. Let's go ahead and jump into this latest issue with the government shutdown. Every day, tens of thousands of flights take off and land all over America, carrying families, loved ones, and dreams all across this country. But not today. Flights are being canceled all over this country. Airports are stalling. Chaos is spreading, all because Washington, D.C. can't do its job. While Americans argue who's to blame, Democrats or Republicans, the truth is both parties failed. The system hasn't just stalled, it's breaking down. This isn't about left or right anymore. This is about right and wrong. A storm is no longer coming. The storm is here.
The FAA is slashing air traffic by 10% at 40 airports across the country starting Friday. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy's announcement coming this afternoon as air traffic control and TSA staffing shortages continue to cause massive backups at major airports nationwide.
I anticipate there will be additional disruptions. There will be frustration. We are working with the airlines. They're going to work with passengers. But in the end, our sole role is to make sure that we keep this airspace as safe as possible.
This as the Trump administration and the government shutdown causing the issues hit a record-breaking 36 days today. The government shutdown making it the longest shutdown of all time. I want to bring in CNN's aviation correspondent Pete Montine. Pete?
Well, Jake, airlines were caught very off guard by this announcement, and I'm told by an airline source they were given less than an hour notice to put this policy in place in only about 36 hours time. The impact here will be huge for the American traveler. Remember, air traffic controllers continue to work unpaid during this shutdown, and Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy just said there is too much stress on them. It's making the airspace unsafe. So he says if there is no deal ending the government shutdown, this policy will go into effect starting Friday morning. To put this simply, the FAA is imposing a 10% cut to flights at 40 major airports across the country. Those specific airports remain undisclosed tonight. The FAA chief, Brian Bedford, says a list of those airports will come out sometime tomorrow. What's interesting here is that Bedford says this was guided by the data that the FAA gets from pilots, not the air traffic controllers. This surprise new policy was designed to protect. Here is what Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said about that.
We're noticing that there's additional pressure that's building in the system. And again, our priority is to make sure that you're safe. And so we're going to talk about additional measures that we are going to take that's going to reduce the risk profile in the national airspace.
So you've got a couple of different things going on. You have air traffic controllers, TSA, people who work at airports who've gone for their second paycheck that they haven't received. So I want you to ask yourself a really serious question. Could you survive 2 pay periods not receiving a check and still be able to pay all of your bills? Remember, these individuals have gone 2 pay periods without getting paid. That's a 30-day cycle. So they've got rent, they've got mortgage, they've got car notes, tuition, utilities, credit card bills. They've got all of these expenses that keep going, regardless of what's going on in Washington, D.C., regardless of what's going on with this government shutdown. And then on top of that, you've got the holidays coming up. You've got individuals who are going to be traveling for Thanksgiving to visit family and friends, going across the country. How is this going to impact the everyday traveler? Not to mention individuals who are traveling Monday through Friday for business. This is a complete breakdown. Washington, D.C. is completely to blame. And again, I don't want you to be distracted by left, right, progressive, conservative, Republican, Democrat. This is a failure of the entire system.
More than 400 air traffic control staffing shortages have been reported at FAA facilities since the start of the shutdown 35 days ago. That number more than 4 times what was recorded during the same period last year. Still very few details from the Transportation Department on this, but cutting airline flights by 10% is a huge number. There are about 45,000 flights handled by U.S. air traffic controllers on an average day. So what the FAA is talking about here is equivalent to canceling about 4,500 flights a day. By my math, that's about 30% worse than the worst day for flight cancellations in the last year. One must also think of the optics here, Jake. Never before has the U.S. airspace been politicized like this. Jake.
Pete Montine, thanks so much. And joining us now to discuss, Nick Daniels, president of the National Air Traffic Controllers Association. What's your reaction to the announcement from Secretary Duffy? Is that welcome news for your members, your air traffic controllers?
Air traffic controllers are showing up to work every day to deal with issues that we've never seen before. 36-day shutdown, the stresses, the pressure, the fatigue is setting in. Air traffic controllers are texting, I don't even have enough money to put gas in my car to come to work. Everything that we can do to support the air traffic controllers during this time is another step and another measure to ensuring that as the risk rises, that it's mitigated. And this is what Secretary Duffy and Administrator Bedford felt was best for the system.
So just think about that for a minute. Individuals who haven't been paid in 2 pay periods, they don't even have the gas money to put gas in their cars to drive to work. And we're depending on these individuals to manage an airspace that has 45,000 flights every single day across dozens of different airlines and different carriers, large airports, small airports, regional airports. This is a huge undertaking. This is an entire travel aerospace apparatus that has ground to a halt because politicians won't make the hard decisions, and it's impacting everyone. It's easy to just say, oh, it's just people who are just flying for leisure. They can wait and take their vacation or their trip sometime in the future. But this is impacting real individuals who have to go to work every day. And again, I ask you the same question I asked you before. Could you go 30 days? Could you miss 2 paychecks, 2 consecutive paychecks, and still meet all of your obligations? Most individuals in this country don't have $400 for an emergency, let alone being able to go an entire 30-day cycle and still being able to meet all of your monetary and financial obligations.
The FAA says it will cut about 10% of flights at 40 major airports starting tomorrow. That's unless the government reopens. The reason? Air traffic controller shortages. FAA facilities report more than 400 of them since the shutdown began.
They're not calling in sick. They're calling in saying, I don't have childcare today. What do you want me to do?
A controller union leader says the need to address the strain on the system is urgent. The FAA agrees.
And we're not going to wait for a safety problem to truly manifest itself when the early indicators are telling us we can take action today to prevent, things from deteriorating.
An airline source says companies got about an hour's notice about the plan. Now they're scrambling to adjust their flights. United says it aims to keep hub-to-hub schedules normal, but the CEO of Frontier Airlines warns some passengers could get stranded. He suggests people flying Frontier within 10 days book backup tickets. Across airlines, passengers leaving tomorrow might not get much warning if they're affected. That's because the FAA initially declined to name the impacted airports.
Tonight, a busy travel day made worse due to the government shutdown. People trying to fly out of Bush Airport spent at least 3 hours just trying to get through security. At Terminal E tonight, the lines literally went out the door. Our Troy class is there tonight monitoring how the long waits are leaving some passengers scrambling. Troy.
Behind me is the lines for security coming out of the doors of Terminal E at Bush Airport. Passengers that we spoke with frustrated with the impacts of the ongoing government shutdown. What comes to mind?
Frankly, it's just 2 people are fighting over probably political issues, and this is the victim, the public.
Niall Tanira saw this line outside of Terminal E and decided it wasn't worth the effort. He missed his flight. Others say passenger patience was wearing thin.
I done walked past people fighting, cussing each other out, It's crazy.
That's upstairs. I wish I was upstairs.
Yeah, that's upstairs.
Tamisha Diggs is downstairs where the line began for security in Terminal A.
This is insane. I mean, it looks like I will miss my flight.
That was the case for Urena Nance, who trekked from Terminal A to Terminal E in hopes of boarding a flight home to Detroit.
I finally go over there and it's catastrophic.
Instead of flying home, she's planning to stay overnight at Bush Airport with hopes conditions improve. The Houston airport system saying wait times could exceed 3 hours while the shutdown continues. Its own staff trying to help TSA workers move passengers safely.
Can you imagine waiting more than 3 hours to board a flight? I mean, when you're flying, it's already stressful enough. You're trying to make sure that you're getting to the airport on time. Some airports, they tell you to get there 2 hours before you get there. Luckily for me, I learned very early on to get TSA PreCheck as soon as it was available. Oftentimes with TSA PreCheck, it's $99 for 5 years. You can show up, go through that shorter line, and oftentimes I'll show up to a flight no more than 30 minutes before actual takeoff. I walk through TSA PreCheck. I don't check a bag. I get my carry-on, walk straight to the gate, and by the time I get to the gate, it's time for the plane to board. But getting there and having to wait 3 hours, not even knowing if you're going to be able to board your flight, if your flight is going to be canceled, and then if there are issues at another airport, that means that flight is going to leave the other airport late, get to this airport where you are late. It's just a complete ripple effect, and you see ordinary Americans being impacted by individuals in Washington, D.C., whom, by the way, remember, they're still getting paid their $174,000 a year, but they are not being impacted financially, they're not being impacted in their jobs, and they're not being impacted when it comes to their travel. This is just completely ridiculous.
Poor communication, other issues going on, but I do understand, the shortage in staff and the why. But it's just very inconvenient for all passengers.
Passengers are hoping anyone can intervene to fix a flying fiasco.
My only hope, the authority, the governor here, he has to call in the TSA people to come in and open up more TSA entrance areas.
The Houston airport system is asking passengers to build in extra time if you do plan on flying soon, as the government is expected to continue to be shut down.
And that's the sad thing after it's all said and done. You just heard that passenger say, oh, the governor should call in the TSA agents. The governor has no control over TSA agents and them coming to work. There's nothing he can do. And bottom line is, these TSA agents aren't getting paid either. So they know they're going to get that back pay when the government shutdown is finally over. But in the meantime, they've got to figure out how to pay their bills, how to pay their daycare, how to feed their families. That's on top of everything else that's going on in the government. I don't know whom you blame in this situation. I know a lot of people who are on the left are going to blame the Republicans and say they need to capitulate on these Obamacare, these ACA subsidies from the federal government. And then you've got people on the right who are blaming the people on the left and saying they need to capitulate. Let's open up the government and let's get everything open so we can start these negotiations for these other issues down the road. But the bottom line is that we as Americans entrust 535 people between the 100 people in the Senate and the 435 people in the House of Representatives. We trust them, we entrust them to run our government. And that you see all of this chaos happening and impacting everyone from SNAP recipients to welfare recipients to employees, federal employees, to people who are traveling in the public. This is just completely unacceptable. We have to demand better of our politicians. We as Americans have to demand that they get in there and do the job that we're paying them to do and not adversely impact the everyday lives of Americans. But maybe I'm wrong. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, jump in the comments section. Let's get the conversation going. Do you blame the Democrats or the Republicans? Or do you blame all of government? And are you one of those individuals who's out there who's being impacted by any of these things that are going on, be it the airports, be it SNAP benefits, whatever it is? I want to hear what your concerns are. Let me know. I appreciate you for hanging out this long, and I'll catch you in the next one.